Your four favorites are Badlands, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Carrie, and Unforgiven. So you've got two films from the 70s, two westerns starring Clint Eastwood, and two movies starring Sissy Spacek. But the movies Sissy Spacek is in that felt right were ones you already had marked as watched, like The Straight Story and The Old Man and the Gun. And it looks like you've already got a lot of Clint Eastwood films covered, but I think you might enjoy the documentary A Decade Under the Influence, which is about 70s cinema and includes both Clint Eastwood and Sissy Spacek. I think There Will Be Blood fits the vibe of your favorites. The film's production designer, Jack Fisk, also worked on Badlands. It's an epic like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It kind of has this feeling of repressed rage that builds up throughout the film like Carrie, and part of the story takes place in the late 1800s American frontier like Unforgiven. The Passenger is a 70s road movie like Badlands. Like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it was directed by a legendary Italian filmmaker. Like Carrie, there's a feeling of alienation, and like Unforgiven, it explores themes related to identity and existentialism. But my top choice for you is probably Natural Born Killers. It was released in the early 90s like Unforgiven. Like Badlands, it follows two young lovers on a killing spree. Like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it's got plenty of stylized violence. And like Carrie, the characters endured psychological trauma during childhood. Speaking of stylized violence, young lovers on the run, and psychological trauma during childhood, you might also enjoy Wild at Heart. But a few more films that fit the lovers on the run vibe that I think you might like are Bonnie and Clyde, Gun Crazy, True Romance, You Only Live Once, and They Live by Night. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford has voiceover narration like Badlands, and the director initially wanted the film to have a style similar to the work of Terrence Malick. It's also a western like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Unforgiven. Speaking of westerns, I was surprised you didn't have Once Upon a Time in the West marked as watched. Like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it was directed by Sergio Leone with a score composed by Ennio Morricone, and it's an epic spaghetti western that's also a revisionist western. Another famous Italian filmmaker, Dario Argento, co-wrote the screenplay for this film, and coincidentally, he directed one of the other films I wanted to recommend to you, and that's Phenomena. But I wanted to recommend this one because you're a fan of Carrie, because it's also a horror film where the protagonist is a teenage girl with psychic abilities. Speaking of psychic abilities, you might also like The Innocents. I wrote down a lot of westerns that you didn't have marked as watched, and I can't recommend all of them because the list would get out of control, but the ones I think you'd like the most are Man of the West, The Wild Bunch, High Noon, How the West Was Won, Winchester 73, and McCabe and Mrs. Miller.